In the Tian Shan Mountains of Xinjiang, the Naladi grassland rolls out in waves of green, dotted with grazing horses and yurts. For centuries, these meadows have been summer pastures for nomadic herders, part of the Silk Road's network of trade and migration. In spring, the hills burst with wildflowers, and snow peaks gleam in the distance. The silence is broken only by the wind in the grass and the distant bells of livestock. Shan, one of China's 4 sacred Buddhist mountains, rises in Sichuan province. At its peak, the Golden Summit Temple often stands above a sea of clouds, its golden roofs glowing in the sun. Nearby, the 48-meter statue of Samantabhadra, seated on 4 white elephants, looks out over the valleys. On clear days, the Himalayas are visible on the horizon, but even in fog, Shan feels infinite. North of Beijing, Chengde was once the summer retreat of China's emperors. Its vast complex of palaces, gardens, and temples blends Han, Tibetan, and Mongolian styles. Among them, the Pupo Zongqing Temple stands out, a miniature of the Potala Palace in Lhasa. Outside the city, natural wonders like Twin Pagoda Mountain rise from the forest, crowned with ancient towers whose origins remain a mystery. Nestled in the mountains of Sichuan, Zhangjiajie is a nature reserve of turquoise lakes, cascading waterfalls, and dense forests. Glacial melt beads its crystal waters, so clear you can see every stone on the bottom. In autumn, red and gold leaves frame the lakes in fiery color, while in winter, ice turns waterfalls into frozen sculptures. Rare wildlife, including giant pandas and golden snub-nosed monkeys, still roam its remote corners. Built in 1608 during the Ming Dynasty, the walled town of Yangtze was designed in the shape of a turtle, a symbol of longevity and protection. Perched on the edge of the Gobi Desert, its thick earth walls and watchtowers once guarded trade routes against nomadic raiders. Time has thinned its population, but wandering its quiet streets feels like stepping back 400 years, where echoes of merchants, soldiers, and caravans still seem to drift on the wind. Hidden in a canyon along the Yellow River, Bingling Temple is a masterpiece of Buddhist devotion carved into the sheer rock. Wooden walkways connect a network of grottos holding hundreds of statues and vivid murals. At the heart stands the great Buddha of Bingling, 27 meters tall, watching over the river with an expression of infinite calm. To reach the site, visitors must travel by boat through a narrow gorge, a journey that feels like passing through the pages of an ancient scroll. Near the border with Nepal, Shilin Canyon is a surreal blend of jagged stone towers, desert-like plateaus, and distant snow peaks. The rock formations rise like an army of stone guardians, their shapes weathered into sharp points and twisted spires. Though it looks like a desert, its high-altitude climate can be colder than the Arctic even in summer, making it as harsh as it is beautiful. In Shanghai province, a circular hot spring bubbles with colors that seem impossible in nature: fiery orange, deep turquoise, and vivid yellow. Known as the Devil's Eye, it owes its hues to mineral-rich water that rises from deep underground. From above, it looks like an alien world, a perfect round eye staring up from the Earth's surface. Straddling the border of China and Vietnam, the Dedian waterfall is the largest transboundary waterfall in Asia. Cascading over limestone terraces, the water splits and rejoins in a series of thunderous drops. On misty mornings, rainbows form across the spray, while boats drift close enough for visitors to feel the river's power rumbling beneath their feet. In Shanghai's salt fields, the Emerald Lake glows in shades of turquoise, green, and white. Divided into hundreds of pools by salt-crusted walls, the landscape looks like a mosaic laid out on the desert floor. Each pool's color shifts with mineral concentration, making the entire lake a living canvas that changes with the seasons. In Guangxi province, the Yangtze rice terraces climb the mountains in graceful arcs, built by hand over 700 years ago. Water from mountain springs flows through a network of channels, turning the terraces into mirrors in spring, emerald steppes in summer, golden fields in autumn, and snow-lined ridges in winter. From above, the curves of the terraces resemble the scales of a dragon stretching across the land. At 77.8 meters high and 101 meters wide, Wangguoshu is China's largest waterfall. The sound of its cascade can be heard kilometers away, and a hidden cave behind the curtain of water lets visitors stand in the spray, watching the river pour past from inside the cliff itself. In the right light, rainbows form across the falls, completing the scene's grandeur. In Yunnan province, Zhangjiajie is a landscape of karst peaks, lotus-filled lakes, and winding rivers. In summer, the lotus blossoms turn the water into a floating garden, their pink petals contrasting with the green of surrounding mountains. From above, the scene resembles a traditional Chinese ink painting, except here, you can drift through it by boat. In the Gobi Desert, Wind and sand have carved the landscape into strange shapes, towers, walls, and fortresses like ridges called yardens. Once feared by travelers for its harsh conditions and ghostly silence, the region now draws visitors who wander among formations that seem like the ruins of an ancient city built by giants. Near the edge of the Gobi Desert in Fenghuang, the Mogao Caves hold one of the greatest collections of Buddhist art in the world. Carved into a cliff face, nearly 500 caves contain murals, sculptures, and manuscripts dating back over 1,000 years. Walking through them is like stepping into a timeline of faith and culture, where each chamber whispers stories of pilgrims, emperors, and artisans who once passed along the Silk Road. In Xinjiang, the Zhangjiajie River has carved a canyon whose cliffs blaze in shades of red, orange, and purple. Seen from above, its winding channels and layered rock faces look like brushstrokes across a colossal canvas. Seasonal floods carve new patterns every year, ensuring that no two visits are ever the same. Near the edge of the Gobi Desert in Fenghuang, the Mogao Caves hold one of the greatest collections of Buddhist art in the world. Carved into a cliff face, nearly 500 caves contain murals, sculptures, and manuscripts dating back over 1,000 years. Walking through them is like stepping into a timeline of faith and culture, where each chamber whispers stories of pilgrims, emperors, and artisans who once passed along the Silk Road. In Shanxi province, the Yangtze grottos hold 45 main caves and hundreds of niches filled with over 50,000 Buddhist statues. Some are no larger than a hand, while others tower several meters high. The carvings blend Chinese, Central Asian, and Indian influences, showing the cultural exchange that flowed along ancient trade routes. In the golden light of sunset, the stone faces seem almost alive, their serene gazes fixed on an eternal horizon. In Shanghai province, a section of the Yulin River runs red. The color comes from mineral-rich sediment, especially iron oxides, carried downstream from surrounding mountains. Against the green of nearby fields and the blue of the sky, the river glows like a ribbon of molten metal winding through the land. Rising sharply from the forests of Zhejiang province, Jianglang Mountain is made up of three colossal vertical peaks, Lang, Yang, and Ling. Trails wind between them, including the Great Celestial Line, a narrow natural passage where the rock walls nearly touch overhead. Standing there with just a sliver of sky above feels like walking through the Earth's own cathedral. On Shengshan Island, once home to a thriving fishing community, lies Hutuan, now abandoned and overgrown. Nearly every house is wrapped in vines, trees grow through rooftops, and narrow paths are carpeted with moss. The island's isolation led residents to leave in the late 20th century, but nature wasted no time reclaiming it. Today, it's a hauntingly beautiful reminder of how quickly the wild can take back its own. For centuries, Guangzhou has been China's link to the world, the first port to open to international trade, and now a city of dazzling modernity. The Canton Tower dominates its skyline, glowing with waves of multicolored light at night. Along the Pearl River, futuristic skyscrapers rise beside colonial-era buildings, creating a skyline where past and present meet. And just offshore, the massive Guangzhou Circle building stands like a perfect ring framing the cityscape. Known for its gentle pace and as the home of the giant panda, Chengdu balances tradition with rapid growth. Tea houses spill into leafy streets, while high-tech districts hum with innovation. Just outside the city lies the Chengdu research base of giant panda breeding, where these iconic animals lounge in bamboo groves. Watching them tumble and play, it's easy to forget the rush of the modern world. In the karst landscapes of Zhangjiajie, the Puhua underground river winds through a network of caves and gorges. Its waters shimmer in shades of emerald and blue, lit by narrow beams of sunlight filtering through sinkholes. Traveling along it by boat feels like venturing into a secret world known only to the stone and the current. In Gansu province, Megaprojects mountain rises like a giant earthen loaf, its ochre cliffs pockmarked with hundreds of grottos. Inside, ancient Buddhist sculptures gaze serenely across the centuries, their colors faded but their presence undiminished. Narrow wooden walkways cling to the cliff face, connecting cave to cave as if stitched across the mountain. The higher you climb, the more the valley opens beneath you, revealing rolling green hills that seem to stretch into forever. Nestled in a bend of the Fenghuang River, Zhangjiajie is a 2,000-year-old town where water and stone seem to be in perfect harmony. The Zhusheng Bridge arches over the river, linking the two halves of the town, symbolizing the balance of yin and yang. Narrow alleys lead to ancient temples, and lantern light shimmers on the water at night, turning the town into a glowing reflection of itself. Straddling the border between Hunan and Guangxi, Bajiaoshan is part of the Yangtze landform, a series of red sandstone cliffs and peaks sculpted into fantastical shapes. Mist curls through its valleys at dawn, and suspended walkways hug the cliffs, built using traditional methods without disturbing the rock. Standing on them feels like floating in the space between earth and sky. At 3,000 meters above sea level in Shanghai province, Chaka Lake is so still and clear that it perfectly reflects the clouds above. Salt crystals line its shores, crunching underfoot, and in summer, the lake's shallow edges create a mirror so sharp it's hard to tell where the water ends and the sky begins. Local artists carve sculptures from the salt, adding a touch of human craft to this natural masterpiece. At the base of Jade Dragon Snow Mountain in Yunnan lies Blue Moon Valley, where glacial meltwater flows into a series of terraced lakes. The water's deep blue hue is so vivid it seems painted, especially under moonlight when the valley earns its name. Surrounded by alpine meadows and pine forests, it feels like a hidden oasis at the edge of the high mountains. Deep in the mountains of Guizhou province, Booty Temple sits hidden inside a natural cave. Its origins are lost to time, but its wooden halls and stone altars suggest centuries of quiet devotion. The journey to reach it is part of its allure. Narrow mountain paths, sudden views over valleys, and the echo of footsteps in the cool shadows of the cave. the largest Miao ethnic village in China, Qianhu Miao is a sprawling settlement of stilted wooden houses climbing the hillsides of Guizhou province. Terraced rice fields surround the village, and at night, the homes glow with lanterns, their reflections shimmering in the river below. Traditional festivals fill the air with the sound of silver jewelry, drum beats, and songs passed down for generations. Hong Kong rises from the sea like a forest of glass and steel framed by green hills. Its skyline holds more skyscrapers than any city on Earth, yet its heart beats in bustling street markets, dim sum tea houses, and hidden temples. Victoria Harbor sparkles under neon light, ferries crisscross the water, and the Peak Tram carries visitors up to panoramic views where the city meets the South China Sea. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, the longest sea crossing in the world, stretches across the horizon like a silver thread. In Yunnan province, the Shilin Stone Forest is a labyrinth of towering limestone pillars formed over 270 million years ago. Narrow paths wind between the rock walls, opening into hidden clearings where the stones resemble animals, mythical figures, and ancient towers. It's easy to see why locals call it the first wonder of the world. Here, nature has sculpted her own city from stone. Crisscrossed by canals and lined with willow trees, Suzhou blends traditional water towns with cutting-edge modernity. Classical gardens, with their pavilions, ponds, and winding pathways, offer peaceful retreats in the midst of the city. Alongside this heritage, futuristic architecture, like the gate to the east skyscraper, glows with LED light shows, a reminder that Suzhou's beauty flows through both time and style. Once the eastern starting point of the Silk Road, Xi'an was the capital of more than a dozen dynasties. Today, its ancient city walls still stand, enclosing a maze of markets, temples, and history. Beneath its soil lies the Terracotta Army, thousands of life-sized warriors, each with unique features, silently guarding the tomb of China's first emperor. As the sun sets, lanterns glow along the Muslim quarter, where the scent of grilled lamb and fresh bread fills the air. In Hubei province, Mount Wudong rises in waves of green ridges crowned with Taoist temples. It is here that Tai Kai was born, blending martial skill with philosophy. Golden rooftops glint in the sun, cloud seas roll through the valleys, and ancient staircases wind toward the temples at the mountain's heart. Pilgrims and martial artists alike climb here, seeking not only strength, but balance. Though across the border in Tibet, the Potala Palace remains one of China's most recognized landmarks. Towering above the city, its white and red walls contain thousands of rooms filled with sacred texts, gilded statues, and intricate murals. From its highest windows, the views stretch to snow-capped peaks, and the thin air seems to hum with centuries of devotion. In the highlands of Yunnan, Zhangjiajie Monastery reflects in the still waters of a nearby lake. Often called the Little Potala for its resemblance to Los's palace, it houses golden prayer halls, fluttering prayer flags, and the low chant of monks in meditation. In winter, snow dusts its rooftops, turning the scene into something straight from a Tibetan thangka painting. Regarded as holy by Buddhists, Hindus, Jains, and followers of Bon, Mount Kailash rises in solitary majesty from the Tibetan plateau. Pilgrims walk the Kora, a 52-kilometer circuit around the mountain, as an act of spiritual cleansing. The peak itself is unclimbed, its summit reserved for the divine. At sunrise, its pyramid-like face glows gold, and the silence is so complete it feels like standing at the center of the world. Though we've seen it from above before, walking Tiger Leaping Gorge is another experience entirely. The trail clings to cliffs high above the roaring Qinsha River, passing waterfalls, tiny villages, and viewpoints where the mountains close in like stone gates. Nights along the trek are lit by stars so bright they seem within reach. Straddling the border of Yunnan and Sichuan, Lugu Lake is home to the Moswo people, one of the last matrilineal societies in the world. The water is a deep sapphire blue, ringed by forested hills and small islands. Wooden canoes glide across its surface, and at night, fires crackle as songs in the Moswo language echo over the water. In Xinjiang's Altai Mountains, Kana's Lake is famous for its ever-changing colors. Depending on the season and weather, it can shift from deep blue to jade green to milky turquoise. Myths speak of a giant lake creature living in its depths, and in autumn, the surrounding large forests turn golden, making the lake look like a jewel set in a crown of fire. For over 3,000 years, emperors, poets, and pilgrims have climbed Mount Tai to greet the dawn. Stone steps, more than 7,000 of them, lead to its summit, passing ancient gates, inscriptions, and temples. Watching the first light break over the horizon from the Jade Emperor Peak is a rite of passage, a moment when heaven and earth seem to meet in silence. In Inner Mongolia, the Bedane-Juran Desert is a world of silence until the dunes begin to sing. When the wind is just right, these towering mountains of sand, some over 500 meters high, produce a deep, resonant hum that can be heard for miles. Between the dunes lie over 100 lakes, their brilliant blues and greens shimmering in the arid landscape. This contrast of water and desert feels almost impossible, yet it's one of nature's great balancing acts. While the rainbow hills of Zhangjiajie are famous, deeper into the park lies a region of stone quaves, massive, rolling sandstone ridges that look frozen mid-motion. Erosion has carved smooth curves and sharp crests, their surfaces rippling like an ocean in stone. At sunset, the ridges catch fire in red and gold, as if the desert itself were glowing. The Taklamakan is China's largest desert and one of the most treacherous in the world. Its name is said to mean, "Go in and you won't come out." Once a deadly barrier on the Silk Road, it's now crossed by modern highways that seem to vanish into the horizon. Along its edges, ancient ruins of cities swallowed by sand tell stories of trade, faith, and the relentless march of the desert. In Gansu's Yadin landform, wind and sand have sculpted enormous rock formations that resemble temples, fortresses, and towers. When the wind howls, it's said to sound like voices, giving the place its eerie nickname, Ghost City. The shifting light transforms the shapes throughout the day, making the landscape feel alive. Near Turpan and Xinjiang, the flaming mountains blaze red under the desert sun. In summer, surface temperatures can exceed 70 degrees Celsius, making it one of the hottest places in China. The mountains are woven into the legend of the journey to the west, where they were said to have been created by a fallen fire demon. In Dunhuang, the Kumtag Desert begins almost at the edge of town. One moment you're walking past shops and markets, and the next, you're at the foot of massive sand dunes. At Crescent Lake, a clear pool shaped like a moon lies in the shelter of the dunes, fed by underground springs, a delicate oasis in a sea of sand. Near Kucha in Xinjiang, the Tianshan Grand Canyon is a maze of deep red sandstone carved into twisting passages and towering walls. Sunlight filters down in narrow beams, painting the canyon floor in warm light. The further you walk, the more the canyon narrows, until you're surrounded entirely by fire-colored stone. Cutting through the mountains of Xinjiang, the Yili River Valley is a ribbon of green meadows, orchards, and wildflowers surrounded by snow peaks. Once a key stop on the Silk Road, it remains a place where cultures meet, Kazakh yurts the hills, and summer festivals fill the valley with music and horse races. One of the highest paved roads in the world, the Karakoram Highway links China and Pakistan across the towering Pamir and Karakoram ranges. The road passes glaciers, turquoise lakes, and peaks that seem close enough to touch. At Kunjarab Pass, over 4,700 meters above sea level, the thin air carries a silence broken only by the wind. Once a vast inland sea in Xinjiang, Lop Nur dried up decades ago, leaving behind a salt-encrusted basin and twisted, desolate landforms. It's a place of scientific mystery and stark beauty. Satellite photos show strange patterns in the salt flats, and explorers often describe it as walking on another planet. The longest river in Asia, The Yangtze flows over 6,300 kilometers from the Tibetan Plateau to the East China Sea. Along its course, it passes snow peaks, fertile plains, and bustling cities. But its most dramatic stretch is the Three Gorges, where sheer cliffs rise hundreds of meters above the water. River cruises drift between these stone walls, revealing ancient temples clinging to ledges and hidden caves carved by time. In Guangxi, the Li River winds past towering karst peaks, bamboo groves, and small fishing villages. Mist often hangs low over the water, turning the scene into a living Chinese ink painting. Fishermen still use trained cormorants to catch fish, a tradition that has lasted for centuries. Every bend in the river offers a new composition. Mountains mirrored in still water, reeds swaying in the breeze, and the slow rhythm of life along the banks. One of the three gorges of the Yangtze, Wu Gorge is famed for its deep valleys and mystical peaks. The gorge twists and turns, revealing rock faces with shapes that resemble animals and legendary figures. In autumn, its slopes are ablaze with red maple leaves, contrasting with the jade-green river below. Flowing parallel to the Li River, the Yulong is narrower and calmer, with no motorized boats allowed. Bamboo rafts glide over its crystal waters, passing rice fields, stone bridges, and grazing water buffalo. In the evening, the setting sun turns the water gold, and the surrounding hills glow in the fading light. A tributary of the Yangtze, Shanghai Stream runs through a gorge so narrow in places that you can touch both sides from a boat. Local boatmen sing traditional songs as they row, their voices echoing off the cliffs. The clear water reveals fish swimming beneath, and high above, hanging coffins from ancient cultures rest in caves in the rock face. In Sichuan's Zhangjiajie National Park, water pours down in dozens of waterfalls, each with its own rhythm. The Nurilang Falls, one of the widest in China, fans out like a silver curtain over mossy rock. In spring, snowmelt makes the falls thunder. In winter, they freeze into shimmering ice formations. Deep in the forest of Guangxi, the Dragon Pool waterfall plunges into a jade-green basin surrounded by limestone cliffs. Mist rises from the surface, and legend says a dragon once slept in these waters, giving the pool its name. The only way in is by hiking narrow trails through bamboo forests, making the arrival all the more rewarding. Built along the Tuojiang River in Hunan, Fenghuang is a maze of wooden houses on stilts, stone bridges, and winding alleyways. Lanterns cast red light on the water at night, and the hum of traditional songs drifts from tea houses. The river is the town's lifeline, as it has been for centuries, carrying trade, stories, and life itself. In spring, Wuzhen's fields burst into bloom with endless waves of rapeseed flowers, their golden petals glowing under the sun. Stone villages with gray tiled roofs rise from the fields, connected by cobblestone paths and arched bridges. The rivers that wind through them reflect both flowers and clouds, creating a harmony of color and calm. Flowing from Lugu Lake toward the Yulong River, the Lugu River carves a gorge through high mountain walls. The water is a pure, deep blue, and in some stretches, the cliffs close in so tightly the sky becomes a narrow strip overhead. Villages perch on the slopes, their wooden houses facing the river like an eternal audience to its passing. Yunnan's far northwest, the Meili Snow Mountain Range rises along the border with Tibet. Its highest peak, Kawageba, towers at 6,740 meters and has never been climbed, out of respect for local Tibetan belief that the summit is the home of a warrior god. At dawn, the first sunlight turns the peaks to pure gold, a sight that draws pilgrims from far and wide. In the eastern Himalayas, Namcha Barwa pierces the clouds at 7,782 meters. It is one of the world's most dramatic mountains, standing guard over the Yarling Sangpo Grand Canyon, the deepest canyon on Earth. The mountain is often shrouded in mist, revealing itself only briefly, as if to remind visitors of its untouchable nature. Covering an area larger than Western Europe, the Shanghai Tibet Plateau sits at an average altitude of over 4,500 meters. It is a land of endless grasslands, frozen lakes, and snow-draped peaks. No Nomadic herders move their yak herds across the plains, and the thin, crisp air carries the sound of wind for miles. This is one of the most remote and pristine environments on the planet. At over 4,700 meters above sea level, Yangtze Lake is one of the highest saltwater lakes in the world. Its turquoise waters stretch to the horizon, framed by snowy mountains. In summer, the surrounding meadows bloom with wildflowers. In winter, the lake freezes into a vast plain of glittering ice. Many pilgrims walk its entire shoreline, a journey that can take days. Flowing from Mount Ganga, the Ganga Glacier is a frozen river of ice that twists through the mountains for kilometers. The ice creaks and groans as it shifts, and deep crevasses glow an otherworldly blue. Standing at its edge feels like looking into the planet's memory, each layer of ice holding centuries of history. While many approach Everest from Nepal, the Tibetan side offers a different perspective. From the Rongbuk Monastery, the world's highest monastery, you can see the mountain's north face rising in sheer grandeur. The view is both humbling and electrifying, a reminder of the scale of nature compared to the human form. Thousands of antelope migrate across the plateau to calve, an epic journey through one of the harshest environments on Earth. In Sichuan, Yading is a sanctuary of snow peaks, crystal lakes, and lush valleys. Its three sacred mountains, Chenrezig, Zhangjiajie, and Shanghai, are revered in Tibetan Buddhism, and hiking trails wind through forests, meadows, and alpine ridges with views that feel like scenes from a dream. Milk Lake and Five Color Lake, with their vibrant hues, are highlights of this mystical landscape. On the edge of the Pamir Mountains in Xinjiang, Karako Lake reflects the snow-covered peaks and waters, so still they seem unreal. Nomadic Kyrgyz families graze their herds nearby, their yurts adding dots of white to the green and brown of the steppe. The air is thin, but every breath feels like it holds a piece of the mountains. Though we've touched on it before, the Chaka Salt Lake deserves a second look from the highland perspective. In the rarefied air, the reflection of the sky is so sharp that people walking on the shallow water appear to be suspended in the clouds. It's a place where reality and illusion merge completely. In Henan province, Zhangjiajie's towering sandstone pillars rise from the mist like the backdrop to a fantasy film. And indeed, they inspired the floating mountains of Avatar. Rope bridges, glass walkways, and winding trails link viewpoints perched at dizzying heights. Looking down, clouds drift between the peaks, making it seem as though you're walking above the sky. In Gillen, the Reed Flute Cave is a vast limestone cavern filled with stalactites and stalagmites lit in shifting colors. The formations, some over 180 million years old, resemble forests, waterfalls, and cities frozen in stone. Ancient inscriptions carved by poets and travelers add a human touch to this otherworldly space.